Thank you. Appreciate it, Derek. Thank you. Round of applause. No, keep it going. Make me feel good here. Come on. Yeah, here we go. I love it. I love it. Let me just make sure this thing works. No, we can. We can. We were just talking. If this was tomorrow night, I would not be presenting. So I'm happy it's on a Wednesday night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Derek, Angie, for having us. My name is Nick DiFederico with MB Capital Solutions. And tonight, we're going to talk about money, right? We're real estate investors, or at least we're trying to be. And we all need cash, whether it's for down payment, getting into deals, out of deals. So tonight, like Derek mentioned, we're going to talk about the number one thing people need when they're getting started in investing in real estate: money. Like, deals are good too, but if you don't have the money to pull the trigger on a deal, finding a deal is kind of pointless. So what we're going to go over tonight, we're going to tell you a little bit more about who MB Capital is, right? Who am I? What do we do? How do we help? We're going to talk about unsecured funding. Thank you for raising that. The different types, especially how us as real estate investors can use these funds to go do deals and, more importantly, make ourselves money, right? Like, that's the end goal. As we're investing in real estate, it's nice to buy properties, but if we're not making money and putting money in our pocket and saving for a rainy day, it's all kind of pointless. So tonight, we want to give you some tools to get out there and do more deals. And end with some Q&A, right? Like, as I'm going through the presentation, you're going to have questions. We're going to try and save all the Q&A for the end. As I'm going through, I may answer a lot of them, but let's make sure we save some for the end, because if you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it as well. And there are no stupid questions, right? So make sure that you're leaving here getting tons of value and that you're having everything answered. So who's MB Capital? My business partner, Eric, right there in the corner, who doesn't like to talk anymore, who makes me do all the presentations. He started the company way back in 2009. Our office is located in South Jersey, but we are a nationwide company, right? We work with real estate investors all across the country. We work with a lot of the education companies like Jumpstart, your real estate gurus, the people you see on Instagram. A lot of them are sending their clients to us to get them money, not just to pay for their courses and their programs, but then so that they have that seed money to get out there and actually do deals. We specialize in funding for small business owners and predominantly real estate investors. 90% of our clients are real estate investors all across the country. I'm a real estate investor, Eric's a real estate investor, Mike on our team's an investor. So we're actually out there doing what we're coaching and preaching, which is always nice. It's always nice to know when you're working with somebody that's actually out there doing it and have seen things that maybe you haven't seen that can give some guidance. It's one thing just to get you capital, but it's another thing to actually go out there and leverage it and use it the right way, especially when we're trying to invest in real estate. And ultimately, we want to position you for success. Not just short-term success right now to get you money to get into a deal, but then long-term success as well. All right, everybody has a different goal when getting into real estate. Some may want to just do one deal a year. Some may want to do 100. We're going to plan for you differently based on the things that you have going on, and more importantly, what you're looking to do long-term. So as I mentioned, that's Eric Moz. He's over in the corner. Don't worry about him. That other handsome gentleman, that's me. I'm Nick DiFederico. I'm lead funding strategist here with MB Capital Solutions. And I was actually a client way back, I want to say 12 years ago now. 12 years ago, I was in the cash for gold business, right? So much like real estate investing, I was just buying gold, silver, diamonds in my store every day. And much like real estate investing, I was running out of cash. And so when I was introduced to Eric, it really changed the game for me in that business. He was able to put in place a $100,000 line of credit that I still use to this day, right? So not only did it help me in the cash for gold business to be able to buy and flip just like we do with real estate, I still have that business active just because I have almost $300,000 of lines of credit now to date in that business that I now lend to my real estate business to go do deals. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can build you guys up with tools so that you don't miss out on deals tonight. Again, I'm a real estate investor as well. Most of my days are spent helping other real estate investors all across the country get access to funds and not miss out on deals. You'll see Eric's walking around with the sign-in sheet. If you have not signed in yet, sign in. We do an Amazon gift card giveaway. So everybody who signs in will be entered into the raffle. We all have stuff in our Amazon, shopping cart. So, $50 to whoever wins the raffle. So if you haven't signed in, make sure we get you signed in. No, that's the sign-in sheet. Everybody on the sign-in sheet goes right into the raffle. So we're all Jumpstarters here, right? And we've worked with Jumpstart for, I want to say, going on 5 years now. worked with a lot of people that have gone through the cohorts. So we have a good idea of what you're out there doing. And Jumpstart's an awesome program. It really does give you that base that you need to get out there and start to find deals. But as you're finding deals, I always like to ask the question, who here has a funding toolbox? So a quick show of hands, who here has a funding toolbox? We got 1, 2, 3, couple, all right? The truth is, whether we realize it or not, everybody in this room has a funding toolbox. You all have stuff that you can use at your disposal to get into a deal. The key is knowing what tools do I have? What access do I have? This way, while I'm out there looking for deals, I know what I can use to get into that specific property. And this is kind of what the toolbox looks like. And it's a little bit different for everybody, right? But what we've learned really, and why we developed the funding toolbox concept, is that we've learned that typically, however you fund your first deal, people are a creature of habit. So maybe you use cash and a hard money lender to get in that first deal, and people think, all right, I gotta flip that property, wait for cash to come back to get into the next deal. And the truth is, if we know what's in our funding toolbox, we may be able to fund more than just one deal at a time, or maybe able to get into a deal when we don't have cash. So the first there, residential commercial loans, you got Joe Scarice in the back. I know he walked around, talked to everybody in the room already, probably. Make sure you talk to Joe. Joe's a great resource to be able to get into a residential loan, commercial loan, if you're looking for multifam, where you can leverage another tool in the toolbox with Joe to essentially go 100% fund your deal without actually having to use your own cash. You'll see I have cash there, right? Cash is a tool in our toolbox, but most people like to spend cash first. It's very easy to spend cash. But the problem is you spend cash too fast and then you start using personal credit, it puts you in a position where you can't get access to any other tools in the toolbox. So we wanna make sure that we're building up our tools and we're using them in the right order. Lines of credit, which we'll talk about today, 401k IRA money. Listen, a lot of people worked old W-2 jobs that have old 401ks that are just sitting there. A lot of times we can roll that over into a self-directed and go invest in real estate. Or invest in other people's deals and private lend with it. So there's a way for us, if we have those old W-2 jobs that had the 401ks, to put it into a product or a tool that we can actually go out there and leverage. Hard money. I always make the corny joke, they should really call it easy money, because if the deal makes sense, they're gonna fund it, right, Joe? If the deal makes sense, you're gonna fund it. So really, as long as you're buying your deals under market and buying it right, you're always gonna have hard money to use as the tool. The question becomes, what other tool can you use to fill in the gaps, which we'll talk about tonight. Credit cards. Credit cards have become a huge popular tool for real estate investors. Who here has ever invested in a property using a credit card? Quick show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, credit cards are an unbelievable tool, and we'll talk about why tonight. I personally have lines of credit. I have all these tools. I typically go to credit cards first, and I'll explain why in a little bit. HELOCs, right? Like we have our residential property, maybe we have our investment properties where over the last 5 to 6 years, obviously, values have skyrocketed. So we have equity that we may be able to tap into. Now, I don't necessarily want to say that that's the first place you should use, but if we have the access and it's sitting there, now's the time to tap into it, have it sitting there ready to go for when we do need to use it. Personal loans. Personal loans are actually a really good tool for us who have W-2 jobs and typically may need to close on a property quickly. I have a case study tonight that I'm going to talk about a personal loan and why it makes sense. But typically if we have a client that's calling me and saying, hey, I got to close in 7 to 10 days, we may want to look at a personal loan if we have W-2 income because we can fund it quick and we can use it as the down payment money. Cash I already talked about, and then obviously private money. We have friends, family members that are seeing us active out there starting to do deals, and they want to get involved, but they don't want to find a deal, they don't want to swing a hammer, but they see that you're having success, so they want to lend you money for a return. I'm happy to take somebody's 100 grand and give them back 12 or 15% if I can go leverage it in a property that's going to make me 50 grand. So private money is a great tool. We always have friends, family members that may be sitting on cash that want to put it to use. If we have opportunities, let's hit them up and see if they're not, willing to give it to us. But the truth is, we can use all these tools to fund a deal, right? Like I can use a credit card and a hard money loan to get into a deal. I can use my HELOC and a private money lender. I can use them interchangeably. The real power players in real estate investing know how to leverage these tools. They know how to use them each individually, but then also with the other tools. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. A couple ways that we can start to build you up with some more tools so that we can get out there and start finding some deals. Funding toolbox makes sense, everybody? All right. So next time you see me speak and I say who here has a funding toolbox, we should all have our hands up, correct? All right, there we go. So what we're going to talk about tonight, unsecured business lines of credit. What's an unsecured business line of credit? Essentially, it's access to cash in our business name, but we're not collateralizing it with a property or an asset. I don't got to put a lien on my house. I'm not pledging collateral. Essentially, I'm leveraging the strength of my personal credit profile to go get money in the business name. And the best part there is, even though they're looking at personal credit to give us the money, it's going to report to our EIN number. This way, while we're using it and leveraging it into a deal, it's not reporting onto our personal credit report. This way, it keeps us in a place where we have an exit strategy, right? Like me personally, right now, I'm using a little over $200,000 of business credit cards, business lines of credit. Not $1 of that reports on my personal credit profile. So when I get to the end of my project and I need to do my refinance, lender pulls credit, they're still seeing a great credit score, even though I'm leveraging a shitload of money in the business. They can't see it. That's how we want to start to position ourselves. Not only do we want to have the tools, but we want to have the right tools so that while we're using it and leveraging it, it keeps us in a really good position to either get into another deal or worst case scenario, get out of it, right? By keeping our personal credit in the right spot. Now, the lenders that we're working with, basically everybody you know, right? It's all the national lenders. We like a lot of the smaller lenders, community banks, credit unions. It's really about what is the lender's box that you have to fit in and making sure that you fit in it. Once we know what their box is, we basically can figure out who's going to give us the money. So that's the key in working with somebody like us. We're running applications for clients all across the country any given month. So we have the data and the trends of the lenders, right? Who's given money? How do you need to look? This way, when we take a look and see how you're positioned, we pretty much already know who's going to give us money. So again, unsecured part is we're just not collateralizing it with anything. We're just leveraging our personal credit to go get money in the business name. Now, building business credit versus building access to cash inside your business. I always like to talk about the difference, especially today. And when I say today, I mean these times of social media. We're all on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We all see the gurus talking about go get $150,000, $500,000 worth of, business credit. And the truth is there's a big difference between business credit and business credit that you can spend the same as cash, right? It's very, very, very different. Your typical business credit building is a lot of this, right? Your Staples, your Grainger, your and you know what I'm talking about. Home Depot, Lowe's, they're great to have. They're in your business name. Some of them, they may not even need to look at your personal credit to get. It does help build up your business credit score, right? Like much like we have personal credit, our business has a credit score. So these trade lines, these vendor trade lines do help build up the business credit score. It just doesn't give us cash to go buy a deal, right? Like I have a $25,000 Staples card. That's great if I need to buy a shitload of pens and paper, right? But I can't use my Staples card to go to closing with. So what we want to do is we want to start building ourselves up with lines of credit that will build our business credit, but then also give us the ability to use it to go do a deal. If you're out there, you're doing this traditional business credit building, you're not doing anything wrong, right? There's still value to it. Build that DMB score, build that Paydex score, have those built up. It does come in hand as you get later into business, 3, 4, 5 years. But a lot of times early on, if we have decent personal credit, we can start to build business credit while simultaneously getting access to cash that we can use on a deal. So what we're going to talk about now are the two different types of unsecured business lines of credit. You'll see the term UBL there. We use it a lot. That's just an unsecured business line. Now, your first is that more traditional checkbook type line of credit. I always compare it to a HELOC, right? We're approved for a certain dollar amount, comes with a checkbook, it's working capital in our business. So cut a check, go put it to use. There's no restrictions on the use of the funds. We can use it for down payment money, we can use it for rehab. The line of credit's awesome. The downside to the line of credit, and especially for us who may be just getting started here, is that they want to see a track record. They want to see at least 2 years in business. And definitely with recent changes over the last 9 months, between tariffs and policy changes, and that's not a political statement. I don't care who anybody voted for. It's got nothing to do with me, but it is the reality of the situation, right? Banks have changed up how they're lending, how they're looking at you. And the lines of credit, especially for us real estate investors, have gotten harder. You know, some of us may have them in the room. I have them. They come and they go, right? So we're just at a period right now where the lines of credit, those $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 unsecured lines of credit, much harder to get. The reason why I still talk about it, especially when I'm talking to a group of real estate investors, is because much like myself, even though we're investing in real estate, we may have another business, right? So we're working with real estate investors, but we're also working with pretty much everybody else under the sun who's also just happens to be a real estate investor. You know, we're working with a pediatrician who's trying to buy fix and flips. We're leveraging the practice to get him lines of credit. Plumbers, dog grooming business this week that I talked to. We're gonna leverage the dog grooming business to get them a line of credit that they're gonna lend to the real estate business. So even though we're real estate investors and the lines of credit have gotten tighter for us, doesn't mean that we can't position ourselves with a business or have a business already positioned that we can't build up capital in. You know, especially right now when we're meeting a lot of the newer investors just getting started, we're gonna mention this, right? Like yes, we're gonna be able to build up capital now, but let's think 2 years down the line and start to position our business the right way so that we have more options as we're growing and scaling the business. But if we're in this room, we have time in business, maybe we don't have a real estate business, there's still ways for us to get the checkbook lines of credit. Very easy to use, that's why we like them. Cut a check, go put it to use. You know, normally when we're acquiring the line of credit, 30 to 45 day turnaround time, you know, it's not fast. Lenders are now starting to look a little bit deeper. You know, a year ago, I mean, if we had an 800 credit score and even a brand new LLC, we can go get a quick $50,000 line of credit. It's tougher these days. So we got to get a little bit more creative, and that's why we moved to a little bit more of focusing on the credit cards at the moment, because we can still get the credit cards and we can use it the same as the line of credit. So what's great about credit cards, again, brand new or an existing LLC. Right? So I can't tell you how many investors, even my experienced investors, pop open a brand new LLC and say, hey, let's go get another $50,000 of credit cards. Because as long as personal credit's in the right spot, we can leverage that personal credit to go build up an LLC with 0% credit cards. And that's really the benefit, right? Yes, there's no financials needed. We're not collateralizing it with anything, but we're getting access to cash in the business that we can go use to fund our deals, but carry that debt at 0% interest anywhere from 9 to 21 months right now. You know, there's some lenders that are going up to 21 months of 0% money in the business name. For us as real estate investors, that's a game changer, right? Like, especially if I don't have cash, like if I have to go private, you know, get a private money loan at 15, 20%, I'm giving away 20% of my interest that I could be keeping. So if personal credit's in the right spot, let's build us up with 0% credit cards. I mean, I have almost $700,000 of access between lines of credit and credit cards, between multiple LLCs and me and my wife. I still use my credit cards first. You cannot beat the 0% interest. And then you fill it in with another tool in the toolbox. So if we're sitting here, we're like, damn, I can find deals, but I can't find cash. If personal credit's in the right spot, there may be ways for us to go get you money. Because it's not just using it to go do a deal with, right? Like, yes, we can go wire funds off of a credit card to a title company and use it at 0%. But really the value is coaching you on how to be able to use it again and again at 0%. You know, because when we do this model the right way, these lenders keep sending us 0% promotions on the same cards after we've used it responsibly, right? I'll give you a prime example, right? You know, so I used $77,000 on a deal in Northeast Philly to purchase a property outright completely. I did the refinance about 6 months later, paid back all my 0% credit cards. Like clockwork, those lenders keep sending 0% promotions for me to use again. So the next time I find a deal, coming right back to the 0% credit cards to start my funding. Credit cards are a great game changer. You know, it allows us to use leverage and kind of minimize the amount of money that we're spending on that leverage. You know, because even if we have the lines of credit, right? Like I tell a client the other day, he's going to use $50,000 of a line of credit. It's at 10%. He's going to use another $50,000 of 0% credit cards to fully fund the deal. Well, now he's really using, you know, 100 grand at a blended interest rate of 5%. If I'm using 10% on the line and 0% on the credit cards, my blended interest rate's 5. You can't go to any bank in the country right now and borrow 100 grand under prime interest rate, which is at 7.5. So even when we're using the higher interest rate, hard money, private money, lines of credit, credit cards are a great way to pull down our blended interest rate so that we're putting more money in our pocket when we're doing these deals. Today, deals are hard to come by, right? So the more we can make on each and every deal, the less amount of deals ideally we have to do. Or we just have the access to do more deals at a time. Do both of those options make sense? Cool. All right, yeah, credit cards are an unbelievable tool, especially from the cash flow functionality of it. Like when you're using 0% credit cards, your minimum monthly payment's only gonna be 1% of the balance. So if we're using 500 grand on 0% credit cards as our down payment money, our minimum monthly payment to service that debt is only gonna be 500 bucks. I'm gonna save questions for the end if you don't mind. So two great options. I'm gonna go into a case study here on a way a client used both options. It is to do a BRRRR deal, but I'm gonna kind of flip-flop, right? She could BRRRR it or she could flip it. And we did some strategic work that really shows the way all these tools kind of play into one another. So she was actually a Jumpstart Norristown client that just happened to live in Maryland. She was one of the virtuals that got education through the Jumpstart program, and we helped get her money to go out there and do her deal. So when she started to build her rental portfolio, she was finding opportunities, right? She can find properties. Her problem was she didn't have the cash to do it, and she didn't have a purchase price high enough that a hard money lender wanted to lend on it. I kind of had this similar situation in Northeast Philly buying a $50,000 deal. Even though I had the line of credit, no hard money lender would lend on it. So you had to kind of self-fund it or go get a private money loan. So she wasn't having luck getting funding, right? Because the problem was she had very high credit card debt. She was 65% utilized, 696 credit score, which is not bad, but it's just dropped because of the utilization. So we had to do a little bit of debt maneuvering to get her into a position to where she could be attractive to the lenders, right? Because again, we don't want to just go apply and hope we get approved. If we know we're not going to get approved, let's reposition and manipulate credit to make you bankable and lendable to the lenders. So for her, she had W-2 income. So remember I talked about that personal loan earlier? I like using personal loans a lot for this, right? We got her a $15,000 personal loan, and she used that to pay down her credit cards. Now, essentially, we're just shifting debt, right? It's from credit card to the personal loan. But the way a personal loan reports on your personal credit, it's not revolving. It's an installment loan. So even though we have the same amount of debt on our credit profile, our utilization shot down. That's the key. Because after we were able to pay down the credit card balances, personal credit shot up, put us in a position where we can go out there and start to build capital. We actually got her $86,000 of 0% credit card funding, and we did get her kind of like the line of credit that I mentioned, just on the personal side. So it reports on the personal, not into the business name, but a $15,000 line of credit that with a lender at this point, we've already gone back and gotten her a business line of credit. So having that relationship with them actually helped us get the business line of credit down the line. So reposition credit, she now has cash in her hand, and she found a deal in Maryland. Now this was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, so don't look at these prices and be like, holy shit, what the hell's going on? These deals actually are still out there. We gotta find them a little bit more. But this was a great deal for her, but look at the prices, right? $27,000 purchase price, $35,000 rehab, ARV, unbelievable numbers. But no hard money lender would fund it because it was only a $52,000 loan, right? 50, whatever. So how did we fund the deal? Well, we used the 0% credit cards to fund the full purchase and closing cost, $29,000, the 27 plus some closing cost. Cards to cash and direct wire transfer. So you're probably wondering, all right, I got a credit card, how the hell do I use it to purchase a property? Well, there's a couple different ways that we can do it. There's 3 to 4 different ways that you can actually liquidate a credit card into cash without doing cash advances. So if anybody in this room's ever done a cash advance, don't ever do it. It's 30, 40% interest. You might as well go to the corner and get a loan from Jimmy. It'd be cheaper. That's honest. So don't do cash advances. It's going to kill you. So we actually have a third-party company that, as long as you have an agreement of sale on a property, and then the wiring instructions for the title company, they'll pull from one or multiple credit cards and send the funds directly to the title company. Companies Plastique, you can look them up. It's plastic with a Q instead of a C. But they're awesome. The things you normally can't use a credit card for, they can help facilitate. So like that last property that I mentioned that I bought, $77,000 purchase price, I used 3 business credit cards to wire directly to the title company, showed up and closed. Same thing we did for her, right? She had to show up to the title company and just close, sign on the dotted line because we had all the cash sitting there at closing off of the credit cards. She used the rest of the credit cards to fund the rehab. And then because she was short on cash, we actually showed her how to pull and liquidate $8,000 of just cash to sit in the bank account so that she could service the credit cards while she was doing her deals. So use 0% credit cards to pay the monthly payments. Use 0% credit cards to fund the acquisition, the rehab. This is a true 100% funded deal. Like people say they can 100% fund a deal. To me, that's 100% funding. The acquisition, the rehab, and then the holding as well. People always seem to forget about the holding. You know, if you're in a hard money loan, you're gonna pay the hard money lender. If we're using credit cards or lines of credit, we gotta service it on a monthly basis. Let's make sure we have that to be able to do. So all in, 74K, all funds sitting on 0% credit cards. Not bad for somebody that could find deals that just couldn't pull the trigger on it because nobody would fund them. Exit strategy, all in for 74, ARV 120, property rented for $1,100 a month, that's nice. Cashed out refinance, she pulled out $84,000 on the cash out refinance. So not only was she able to pay everything back down, all of her credit cards to zero, she had a little bit of extra cash in her pocket, tax-free by the way, because you refinanced and pulled it out of the deal. You know, so monthly payment, $646, it's cash flowing property. She used $0 of her own money to get into this deal. Game changer, game changer. You know, so just a quick kind of overview. I want to make sure I'm being respectful of time. Again, use zero money out of her own pocket to fund the acquisition, the rehab, the holding, leveraged all 0% credit cards. Obtain the cash out refinance in the LLC name so the debt's not showing up on her personal credit, doesn't impact DTI, keeps her bankable and lendable in the future. Again, cash flow and $450 a month on a deal that she's got $0 into at still, right? She's got no money into it and it's giving her, spitting her out $450 a month, and that tenant is growing her equity. She was able to pay off all the credit card balances, still have the 18. The 18's because we pulled off the 8 in cash, so that's why she has the extra more than the 10 from the refinance. And the best part is once she paid down the credit cards, she still had the access to go do it again. So a couple years later, that 86 number is much higher. I don't have her exact number. She's gone on to do, I want to say, a dozen deals in Maryland. She's private lending with the money now. She's finding opportunity, right? There's always ways when we have the access that we can find deals. You know, not just a fix and flip or a buy and hold. I'll have clients that will fund other people's deals using the 0% credit cards and take a piece of their deal. So especially right now when deals are maybe a little bit tighter to find, if you have somebody that is finding deals that doesn't have money, lend them the money. Let's use the 0% credit cards and make a return. I have people that are taking 20, 30% of other people's deals just by being the gap funder. So if we have the access to the funds, there's always a way to find it, a way to use it. The key is having the access. That makes sense. Great case study, right? I think everybody in this room would do that deal 100 times again and again and again, over and over again. So I just illustrated a lot of the ways that we can use these funds as real estate investors. I'll kind of go back down it again. But earnest money deposit. We got any wholesalers in the room? I think we got one. No wholesalers? All right. Yeah, we got one. Yeah, you get these properties under contract, you got to put EMD down, right? So, you know, and we use up cash quick, especially if we're active and we're getting lots of properties under contract. And then, you know, if we use all of our cash, how are we going to keep funding the EMD? Let's leverage the 0% credit cards to do that. You know, anybody familiar with Pace Morby, social media guru? We got a couple. Pace Morby developed this program called Gator Lending, which is basically, if I'm a wholesaler and I get a property under contract, but I don't have the EMD money, I could come borrow the $5,000 from you. But you're gonna say, hey, in 30 days, I want 10 grand back. And I'm gonna say, shit, okay, I'm gonna go assign it and make 40. And I don't have the money. So there's people out there that will give up portions of their equity of deals just by getting it funded. And if we have those tools to fund it, we're the ones that can make the money. But if we're doing these deals ourselves, we're still gonna need cash to put down money for EMD. So let's leverage the lines of credit. Let's leverage the credit cards. Let's hold on to our cash. Payment money is the most common one I see. You're getting into a deal, hard money lender's giving me 80% of the purchase, all the rehab, but I need that 20% down payment plus closing costs. Let's 100% fund the deal and actually leverage the credit cards or the lines of credit to do so. Rehab money. We're gonna do rehab to a property. I get a call every week from an investor that didn't know when they closed with their hard money lender that they had to kick off the rehab, that they had to start the first $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 to get the contractor on the job site, get him started, for them to hit the first draw amount. So don't be that person that actually gets to closing and then goes, shit, I gotta pay the contractor? Like, yes, you gotta pay the contractor. You gotta kick off the rehab. Let's make sure that we have that tool so that you're not sitting there, waiting for a contractor, hoping to find money to get onto the job site. Acquisition costs at closing, appraisals. If we're doing commercial appraisals, you're gonna need to spend money on something. Let's try not to use cash. Let's leverage a tool to be able to do that. Monthly holding costs, like I mentioned, if we're using lines of credit, if we're using hard money, we gotta service that debt. We gotta service that leverage. Let's truly 100% fund that by using the tools that we have in our toolbox. Furnishings, whether you're doing Airbnb, pad split, there's a lot of popular ways to do vacation rentals. If we're gonna have an Airbnb, add all the gadgets, increase the rents, right? Like get the pool table and the dartboard and all that stuff, because then you're allowed to charge more on your nightly rents. So let's make sure that we have a tool that we can buy the furnishings. Emergency funds. Ever since COVID hit, if you see me speak before, I talk about this. The game completely changed during COVID. If you were investing during COVID, literally one night, then the next night the game's different. I vividly remember one client called me during COVID and said, hey, because my hard money lender had the rules changed on them, they're changing the rules on me. And what he meant by that is the hard money lender's money that they get from told them that they needed to have more in reserves. So when he was expecting a $30,000 draw to finish his deal, they told him he can only have 9. He was $21,000 short on his rehab. If credit wasn't in the right spot, we weren't able to get him money, he may have had to wholesale that deal off or just walked away from it. So let's plan for that. Emergencies happen. The more we can start to build up capital, especially when we don't need it, is the time that we want to do it. And just general working capital, marketing, coming to events, buying programs, we're going to need cash for stuff. The more we can not use our own cash and leverage a tool, typically is going to put us at a better position, like I mentioned. So talked about the different types. We talked about lines of credit. We talked about credit cards. We talked about ways that we can use them as real estate investors. All right, Nick, what do I got to look like to get it? I care more about your credit data than your 3-digit score. You don't care about that. So you're going to say, Nick, what's the 3-digit score got to be? Typically, I'm going to say we want to see a 700, but I care more about these data points, like I said, than that 3-digit score. I can manipulate credit, right? It's a weird thing to say, but like all these things can be fixed or changed or tweaked. So a lot of the business lenders, they're looking at age of history of our credit profile, right? How long have we had credit? Talk to a lot of young kids, 18, 19 years old, they have 1, 2 years. They're looked at as a fetus to the bank, right? Like, we're not giving you money, you've never used money. So age of history matters. And if we are one of those young people that have young credit, a lot of times we can just get an authorized user, kind of bump up our age of history. That helps. Inquiries in the last 6 to 12 months. Inquiries do matter for what we do. Right? It's not really gonna matter for a mortgage or a hard money loan or an auto loan, but for us in the unsecured spot, when a lender sees we have 7, 8, 9 inquiries in the last 6 months, even if credit score is good, typically it's gonna result in a denial because they start wondering, all right, why is he having his credit ran so much? Is there something going on in the financial life that just hasn't hit the credit report yet? Typically gonna be a denial. So if we have too many inquiries, and listen, we're all real estate investors, we're all trying to do refinances, find money, we all have inquiries. We do have a third party that can remove inquiries. So if we've been having our credit ran a lot, reach out, we can help with that. Overall credit utilization, this is a big one. How much credit do we have? And then more importantly, how much of it are we using? The magic number in terms of your credit score is that 30%. So anytime you go over 30% utilized, you see a big drop in score. Anytime you come down under 30%, you're gonna see a big pop in credit score. 30% is the bare minimum, right? Like, yes, we wanna be under 30%. The lower we can be, the better. We don't wanna be zero though, right? You wanna have a little bit of debt. So like that 1 to 10% range is great. But if we can only get under 30% utilized, there's ways for us to get you money, and then we can use that new money to kind of reposition. But 30% utilized is that key. We wanna get under 30% typically all the time. Number of current trade lines, and then the limits and the history of those trade lines. You know, I'll talk to a lot of people, they'll say, hey, mom, dad, grandfather, whatever, said I should only have one credit card. And that may be true if we're not an entrepreneur trying to build up business capital. Right? The truth is, business lenders like to see a robust personal credit profile. They like seeing 7, 8 personal credit cards. There's a part of your history on your personal credit that tells them how much of it that you've used in the past, your high pass balance. So like if you have a $10,000 credit card, but your high pass balance is only $100, they're not gonna give you 10 grand. So we actually wanna use personal credit because it allows the business lenders to give us more money. So we do wanna use our personal credit, but be responsible enough to pay it back down. As long as we hit these data points, we're gonna get money, right? So as long as we have decent age of history, we don't have a ton of inquiries, we're under 30% utilized, we're gonna find money. If you're sitting here going, shit, that's not me, again, I can manipulate credit. We can figure it out. There's always a game plan. I curse a lot, I can't help it. But that's the truth of the matter, right? Most of our day is not spent helping people that are credit ready go get money. Most of our day is spent repositioning people's credit so that they're more bankable and lendable to the lenders so that they can get that money. Not everybody's as patient. Not everybody wants to wait. Sometimes we need to. So we'll kind of blend the balance of, can we get you money now? Or hey, do we got to tweak some credit so that we can go get you money? That's part of working with us. We'll kind of give you that game plan. But I care more about the data than the score, like I said, but when you're pressing me, I want to see around a 700. So how do we get started? How do we help? Very simple process to see exactly how we can help you. Obviously, it all starts with getting pre-qualified. So that QR code is a link to do a soft pull of credit. If you're interested in seeing what options do I have now, or do I need to change credit around, or do I need that game plan, let's take a peek, right? We are very credit conscious. We don't do any hard inquiries to get you pre-qualified. We'll do everything off of that soft pull of credit. So that link right there will allow us to see credit data, but it won't be a hard inquiry. But most importantly, it'll give me everything that I need so that we can tell you exactly how we can help or what we have to change up. After we get pre-qualified, we're gonna have that funding consultation. You know, we're gonna kind of go through credit, talk about the options that we have. We also wanna get to know you, right? Like we plan for everybody a little bit differently based on what you're looking to do. You know, somebody who wants to do one deal a year, we're gonna plan a little bit differently than somebody that wants to do 10 deals a month. Everybody has different goals, and that's okay. But we're gonna plan for you differently. So after we take a look at credit, we'll have that conversation. What are we looking to do? What options do we have? What opportunities do you have? More importantly, how much capital can we go get for you? And then we handle everything, right? You know, we submit the applications, we build the custom game plan, we work with the lenders. You know, you focus on finding deals, we're gonna go find you the money. The one thing I will say, again, with a lot of the changes with banks, lenders, you may have to talk to banks or lenders to verify information, especially verbally. We just won't pretend to be a client. My team will still hold your hand and walk you through that process. But there's definitely been some changes with lenders and having to verify like a home address or a driver's license number. If you're like, Nick, you're cool, but I don't want to give you my credit information, that's okay. I get that too. You can just schedule a call. We can have the call first. So right side is pre-qualify, left side, schedule a time on our calendar. We'll have that conversation to learn more about you, what you're looking to do, and then does it make sense to do the soft pull and go from there. So I'm gonna leave those up just so that you have, but do we have any questions? In the back, sir.
So for MB Solutions, what's in it for you?
I take 50% of your deal. 50% of the deal. Would you say yes to that? What's that? I'm just checking. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. All right, so what's in it for us? I'll take 50% of the deal. I'll fund that myself. But how we're compensated, we are paid for acquiring you capital. It's typically a percentage of the overall approval amount that we get funded for you. Typically, it's going to be a 10% charge of whatever funding that we get for you. However, we cap your total fees at $5,000. So with the average client getting close to 75,000, your max out of pocket would be that $5,000. It's all paid on the back end. Nothing's paid up front, so you don't pay me $1 until I actually go out there and get you the money. We do also have another program called the Funding Fast Pass. It's a little bit different. It makes sense for some people, especially if you're a newbie investor. But we'll kind of walk you through that. When we have that conversation, we'll show you both pricing models, where you fall in the place, and just kind of discuss with you what makes sense. So what's in it for us? We get paid for getting you money. And part of that fee that we get, yes, it's one thing to get you money, but I think the more important part of what we do at MB Capital is show you how to go out there and leverage it and use it. You know, there's a lot of people that go out there and get you a 0% credit card. 99% of them have no idea how to liquidate it or actually use it in a real estate transaction. They'll help you get it, but they're not going to show you how to use it. That's included in what we do. And I honestly think that's the more important part and the bigger value of what we provide. You know, it's one thing to get you money, but if you don't know how to use it, it's kind of pointless. Yes, sir.
That one example where there was the woman from Maryland had over $80,000 in zero APR card credits. Was that multiple credit cards?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but it was multiple credit cards, probably 4 to 5 credit cards.
Nick, if you could just repeat the question.
Yeah, so his question was the 86,000 of total funding, was that multiple credit cards? Yes, that was multiple credit cards.
And they're typically like a 12 to 18 month period. So when she's done the deal, she may have a few months left, but she could then get more zero APR cards.
We can always go back for more. There's always going to be more options. But the key is when she did that refinance, right? Pay the card back down to zero, right? Keep it with the funding toolbox type concept, right? Like I was one of those kids that had to hold the flashlight for my grandfather. And he always told me, when you're done a project, even if you're going to do another project, you put all the tools back. It's the same thing with our funding toolbox, right? So when you do that refinance, you pay down the credit cards to zero. The lender sees, all right, he just used it right. He used it responsibly. The reason they send additional 0% promotions, well, 2 reasons. One, they're a credit card company. They need to hold your debt. The real reason you get 0% promotions is they know the 90+% of people that use them typically can't and won't ever pay it off, right? Most people are using it to go shopping with, moving bad debt over. If we're using it as a tool to get into a deal with an exit strategy, whether it's the flip or the refinance, and we can pay down those cards, we're going to keep getting 0% promotions on those same cards again and again. So it's not just the initial 18 months. You know, I have a couple credit cards over the last 10 years I've never paid interest on. Yes, sir. And then I know you had a question over there. Yes.
Did she put the credit in LLCs?
In the LLC name, yeah.
So it should all be in LLCs?
Yep. So while she was using that, none of it report on her personal credit. That's why she was able to get good terms on the refinance.
So she used the whole amount. She used the credit limit. She went to the credit limit.
Close to it. Well, she did 29,000 on the purchase, and then another 37, so it was like close to 70, and then we pulled off 8 in cash just to her, so she can service the debt.
What I mean is, was that if her credit card said she could use 10, she used the whole 10?
Oh yeah, you used the whole 10.
Because usually that slams your freaking credit score.
Doesn't show up on personal credit. So it's not gonna, the utilization of it, the debt, the leverage is staying under the EIN number. So go use it, go use 99% of it. It's gonna keep you personal, bankable, and lendable.
So you saying get as many LLCs
I'm not saying that. Hold on. Who's in here? All right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, we can always get creative. That's how, you know, me, my partner Eric. It's how we help clients. Simple answer is yes.
You say you charge 10%.
10%.
What you are able to get us.
Correct. Capped at $5,000. So essentially, anything over 50 grand is free money for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think you had a question.
I did.
Yes.
Plastique?
Plastique.
Yes. I guess they charge a fee.
2.9%.
Okay.
So it's not bad. Because even if you do like a balance transfer, average balance transfer is 3%. The key, however, is when you do that transfer at 2.9%, it's keeping it at 0% interest. It's not a cash advance. So you end up making that 2.9% back within, I think the math on it's 2 cycles, because you're not paying interest on that leverage. Whereas if you were paying interest on it, you're paying way more than the 2.9%.
And do you have to go through your company for plastic, or is that?
No, you can go to Plastique's website, set up an account. I'm not gatekeeping Plastique. If you need help using it, reach out to us. There's sometimes gets a little complicated on how to use it, but Plastique's a great tool.
Just plastic or is another name with that?
Plastique, Plastiq, no C. Yeah, plastique.com.
Oh, IQ, no UA. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. IQ, nothing after.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi. Just do inquiries, so I understand that when she was applying for her case study.
Yeah.
When she was applying for a credit card, it was all based on, right, personal credit. But we know that when you have the inquiries, right?
Yeah.
Because you're saying.
We added inquiries when we
Right,
applied.
so
Yeah.
right. But then once she had her once you have your LLC and and you have these credit cards, you're building business credit.
You are building business
Okay,
credit.
so
Yeah.
then, once it's built and you're do inquiries also for business credit?
No.
They don't?
Yeah. So you have a part of your business credit profile that will show inquiries. It doesn't impact your business credit the way, not the way it does on personal, correct? Great question, though. That was a good one. Yep. Yeah. Some of them are hard. So when it comes to inquiries, the one thing we strategize around when we're building a game plan is most lenders are only going to pull one of the 3 credit bureaus. So I can go apply to 6 lenders. It doesn't mean you're getting 6 inquiries on all your credit bureaus. We're going to spread those inquiries out across the 3 bureaus. And then when it comes to especially the business credit card inquiries or the business lines of credit, the trade line doesn't show up on our personal credit profile. So that specialist that I mentioned that does the inquiry removal, even if we get approved for it, he can go out there and get those inquiries deleted. So typically we may see 5-10 point drop if we add a bunch of inquiries, but if we go get 100 grand, I'll take that trade off every day. I think you had a question back there? Shoot.
My question is, we're all speaking about the same thing about the credit cards. So what if you're building your own personal credit up and you
Good.
have gotten credit cards, so they had to pull the hard
Yeah.
reports and stuff? How does that affect, because you guys say you don't want to see a lot of inquiries on your statement?
If you're building personal credit and we have some inquiries and that trade line's on there, we got to let it age out over 6 months. Because what you don't want to do is if it's in a legit trade line tied to an inquiry and they can match it up and you go to remove the inquiry, they may try to shut the account. So if you are in that phase where you're building personal credit, sometimes we just got to wait a little bit and let those inquiries age out. We'll kind of give you that guidance too. I got one in the back.
If you have a bunch of, like if you already have like a bunch of business credit cards already maxed out and you're trying to go for more, do you need to clear that first before you're trying to go for more?
So the question is, he already has a bunch of business credit cards in a business. Does he need to pay down balances before he can go apply for more? It's a twofold answer. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I forgot. I'm being recorded. I got to get over here. I'm sorry, Derek. So I did really good. I wander around when I present. So like the fact that I stood here the whole time, I should get a medal. Yeah. He's like, I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Stay over there. Yeah, I wander when I present. So it was very hard to stay right here this whole time. I should get credit for that. To answer your question, it's twofold. If we're trying to get more business credit cards in the same business, yeah, we want to pay down some of those balances. But if personal credit looks good and we're using a separate LLC that doesn't have balances, we don't have to worry about the first balances. Every lender is a little bit different, so we'll kind of cross-reference that. But there's going to be options for both businesses if you're kind of set up that way. But if you're trying to go build up more business credit in that same business that everything's maxed out, depending on the number, we may want to work on paying some of those balances down.
No, a lot of stuff's already paid off. It's still sitting there.
Got it.
It's pretty fresh stuff.
Got it. You just need it to report.
Yeah, exactly.
30 days and then we go. In the back.
It sounds like there's a lot of ways to reposition someone's situation, right? Is there, I guess, is there someone that you couldn't reposition, if that makes any sense what I'm saying?
Sure. Very recent bankruptcy. Right, we have bankruptcy in the last 2 years, and we've had a lot of creditors, especially if they're credit card companies. We're going to obviously start with building personal credit, but it may take some time to build up the business credit. Bankruptcies can be a killer depending on who's involved in the bankruptcy. Whenever we meet somebody with a bankruptcy, we'll ask for the bankruptcy matrix. All right, what lenders were included? Who do we got to avoid? There may be options, but you may not have the full range of options. So that's really the ones that we see recent bankruptcy. But I have a client in that situation where we're just leveraging his wife's credit because she wasn't part of the bankruptcy, and we're going to leverage her credit profile to go get business credit. So there's always ways with credit partners, or if we have business partners, that we could still get you money, but if we have a very recent bankruptcy, it hurts a lot of things. Yes, sir.
You said you leveraged her credit profile. You leveraged her credit profile as an LLC.
Yeah, we would leverage her personal credit,
As an LLC.
but put the funds in the LLC name. So we're using the husband's LLC. She's not on it, but we're using her credit profile as the guarantor.
Personal credit profile.
Correct, to get the funds in his LLC. Yes.
So this is my major question with the credit cards. Knowing who pulls from whom,
Yeah.
all right? So my main question is, I had 50 credit card companies that I knew that was going to pull from Equifax. Do I do all 50 and wait to do the next?
Definitely don't do 50. All right, I'm just saying.
Just say 10.
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Okay. How many days in between do you go for TransUnion?
Oh, right, the next day, same time, same time. Yeah, you could do the same time. Yeah, if they're pulling different credit bureaus, you don't have to worry about them pulling different credit bureaus. But if they're all pulling the same credit bureau, you want to hit them all at the same time, right then and there.
Okay.
Yes.
So how long do you have to have your LLC before you become credit?
1 day.
1 day.
As long as personal credit's in the right spot, you could be a day-old LLC. We're gonna get you money. Yeah, like I said at the start, so many investors will say, hey, I'm tight on cash. I just popped open a new LLC. Can we go get a quick 30, 40, 50 grand? So even with a new LLC, as long as personal credit's in the right spot, there's money to get.
Do you need a tax return for all this stuff?
No, not for the credit cards. The lines of credit for the real estate investors have been a little bit tighter. They've been asking for docs. But that's what's nice about the credit card plan, because you don't need any of the financials, no docs, no bank statements, decent personal credit and an LLC. You guys want to duke it out? All right. It's a loaded question. Yes, I do. But again, it all goes back to you individual, right? So if it makes sense for me because I have multiple businesses, I'm trying to do multiple things. I have me and my wife, we can set up and kind of get things very strategic. Simple answer is yeah, there's no harm in having multiple LLCs. Just, I would set up who's in this room again? Hold on, let me just double check. Okay. Yeah. Ah, damn it, man, Derek. Okay.
Even worse.
Not bad having a consulting LLC, a management LLC. Be careful with the charities, that comes into play a little bit. Banks have been a little funny with that. But basic LLC, consulting, management, trucking, dog grooming, like literally anything but real estate is my suggestion. But yeah, there's no harm in having multiple. Hold on, she's had a quick question. Gene, I'm coming to you next.
The question, I'm sorry, the example you had where you talked about leveraging another business, right? But that was the old way, that's the other way of doing things. Like, when do you leverage another business? Is that for just a check?
That's more for the checkbook lines of credit.
Okay.
Where it's like we have a non-real estate. Problem is, banks look at real estate as high risk. So especially right now when things are tighter, it raises a red flag, typically going to get a denial.
I just
So
wanted to make sure it was part of the.
yeah, not the credit card way. The checkbook lines of credit, if we have a normal, just regular non-real estate business, there's still ways for us to get checkbook lines of credit. We may need the docs, we may need tax returns, like that stuff may get asked for, but there's options. That's why I still have that jewelry business still active, just because I can still build up capital in it.
And one last part, you don't need to have you said to the young lady up there, like, as soon as you become an LLC, you're eligible, right?
As long as personal credit.
With personal credit.
With good personal credit.
But do you need a bank account, like, for your business?
No, I recommend it. especially if we want to include a lender in the game plan. If you don't have one, we can tell you what bank to set up an account with that will be beneficial towards getting more funding. So there is some strategy there, but you can have multiple bank accounts. So like if you have one set up, it's not like you have to go set up another one. But I do recommend having obviously a business bank account. Not to get the credit. Yeah. And we can build that into the game plan with a certain lender. That makes sense. Question in the back.
Figure out how to say it. So let's just say I got.
Just say it and we'll figure it out.
I know. I have a credit card and I go apply under my business name. I have to back the credit. How do that affect this situation right here? Because my credit, let's just say I apply for a business line of credit and they say it's not enough. I have to go under that account. How do that affect me? Trying to apply for all this. I'm not saying.
So when we're getting the credit cards, we're personally guaranteeing it. They're looking at my credit profile, correct?
So how do that affect us if we already in debt?
So if they approve us, it's not going to affect us, right? You know, if they approve us, ideally, if we have debt on the personal side, again, they're recording, we can move some of that debt into the business name off of personal credit and kind of rebound personal credit to reposition things. The key is being responsible with the money. Because even though it's going to be in the business name, if we stop paying on it, we default on it, it's going to revert back to personal credit. So everything I'm talking about, even though it's going to be in the business name, we got to use it responsibly.
I guess that's what the answer was.
Yeah, we want to use it responsibly. Yes, in the back.
All the things that I've done, I use my own money. I'm retired now.
Okay.
So I had
Congrats.
credits, thank you. Lines of credits, I had different things where I know my credit score is over 700. Fine, that's good.
Yep.
But I use my money I bootstrap. That's the word.
Okay.
I bootstrap to build my business. So therefore, it did affect my 750 now, it's like 700. I'm cutting like I'm fighting to stay above.
You're using
water.
personal credit.
Exactly.
Yeah, we want to get you off that roller coaster. I've been there, done that.
So I'm in an investment business, different kind of business, but I'm going to do my real estate. I have one property.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to do the multi-family thing now. So
Love it.
I need to, what you just said, and I heard you say, I need to move some of that money. I use my business for my other business to something else. I don't know how to go. It's like I'm scared.
You see these two QR codes? Pick whichever one you want. Left or right. Both if you're feeling frisky. All right, so one more question. Hold on, I promised Gene, we can talk when we're done. Gene, what's up?
Question. So in terms of like using an LLC, owning another LLC, how does that work in terms of line of credit when an LLC is owned by another LLC?
Good question. When the LLC is owned by another LLC, it gets complicated. They'll go back and they'll say, all right, if A owns B, A's the owner, who owns A? And it still may come back to you. So depends on how you're set up, depends what state you're set up. There's some variables there. So we're happy to take a look at it and discuss that a little further.
Is that the same thing if it's a LLC umbrella?
Yeah, we got to look at that. There's ways that it'll still probably end up coming back to your personal credit. Even though the business is owned by another business, it's still going to come back to you.
I lied. We have one more.
All right.
Athletics hat.
We'll call it the Philadelphia Athletics. We're not saying Oakland. Sure. Well, you can only ask one. Derek said one. All right, sorry, I'll stop.
And Nick's going to stick around.
I'm going to hang, so if anybody has questions, Eric's here and Mike's here for questions as well.
What if you don't have any personal credit? Like maybe you have a small secured credit card and, you know, maybe not even a lot of inquiries, but you just don't have a lot of credit.
We may have to build a little personal credit. We see it all the time. Somebody has that one credit card. We may have to get a couple personal credit cards, but we'll do it strategically with lenders that will come back and get the business product as well. So there is a little bit of a game to play there. Or if we have very strong business credit profile, the D&B built up and all that, there may be still ways for us to get you business money while simultaneously building the personal credit profile up a little bit. So there's some ways to get creative.
That's perfect. And the second question is, I know you were talking about taking some debt from the personal and maybe being able to put it to your business.
Yep.
Now, would you be able to do that with bad debt, or is that just with like, you know, credit cards that you're using that might be at the top of your?
What kind of bad debt are you talking about? Yeah, listen, if you got to settle those, it depends on the age, right? Like some of them, if they're old, don't pay them. I'd rather you pay to get them removed than pay, because it's going to refresh on your credit report. So it depends on the age of the collections, but if you have a newer collection that you're like, if I settle it, it'll come off, we can pull some money off of the business credit card and you use that to pay off the collection if they're going to remove it. If they're not going to remove it when you pay it, I'd rather you pay our credit repair guy to go get it deleted. Yeah, no problem. Guys, I appreciate it. We're around here if you have any questions. Thank you so much.